At the beginning of this year, I started a resolution to become the Campfire King. That meant not only being able to start fires in the woods, but also meant becoming a really good campfire chef to be able to provide for anybody who joins me on my group trips and things. So it's been a big goal, and today I'm going big because I found the most beautiful campsite location ever. I've got all my cooking gear right here. I've got a big steak that I'm gonna cook over the campfire today, and I'm gonna take you through the whole process. First thing up, we're gonna set up the camp and get a fire going. I have been so excited to film this video, and on the way up I was asking myself, my gosh, why don't I do this every week? Like, why don't I do this stuff more often? Why haven't I done this stuff more often? I'll tell you why. It's because this is a 40-pound backpack, and about 1.5 miles into this hike, I had my chair on the back of my neck. I had all this stuff in my bag, all the food, everything. And the amount of stuff that you need to go into the forest and be able to cook good food is crazy. Look at how crazy this is. All this stuff I need to get out in the woods today. Unbelievable. See, I've always been somebody who, when I go out into the forest, I'm ready to go right now. We moving, come on, what you waiting for? We go, all right? I've never had the patience to sit down and set up camp because I've always been more of a fan of, I'll rough it when I get there. I don't care what happens, I'll be okay when I get there. I don't need all the luxuries, just get me out there. Well, when you become a trip leader and start taking care of a lot of people who want to have a good experience, you got to learn how to become, you got to have the skills that go with a leader, right? So you got to be able to take care of people, you got to be able to cook, got to be able to make people feel safe and comfortable. And it's just never been my exact style to do it solo. But this year has been my year of upgrade. So we're upgrading all the skills, upgrading my leadership ability. And that's why I have all this fancy camp equipment. Now look how cool this thing is. That's going to be where we cook our steak and our side dishes pretty soon here. Just found this nice little round to be our table. Now, time to go find some firewood. Whenever you're camping in the woods, the preparation is the most important part. So we're looking for a few different kinds of firewood here to keep the fire burning for long enough to cook a steak and some additional little side dishes. So we're looking for a couple different things. These are like the first burners, the first things that are gonna catch on fire and get everything going. So, kind of like a little bit bigger than kindling is essentially these first pieces that we're looking for. And there's quite a bit of them right here. Next thing I am looking for are going to be some structure pieces like this right here, actually, that give the fire some shape when we're first starting out, like this little log. Probably aren't going to burn very well to start with, but they'll be what I feed the fire after it's going, and they'll just give it a little bit of a structure to climb up as I'm starting it. So we're looking for some stuff like that next. Okay, so we got kindling up next, and I think I'm just gonna probably use mostly this pine bark. I can be a little bit less selective today because I'm using a lighter. When I have a flint and steel or a flint and ferro rod, you have to be really, really careful and like build all sorts of little different kinds of kindling. So normally I would probably break down little sticks like this and start like that and build the fire up from there with even smaller tinder than that to start with. But because I've got the lighter and I've got some good birch wood that I'm going to show you in a second, I feel like this stuff's going to be fine for kindling. So let's do that. Okay, so I've got all my wood, I've got kindling pine bark, I've got a few bigger logs to be able to burn longer. I've got some of these to put on just as the fire starts to take off. Now, for the most important parts of getting the fire started, it is time to work on the tinder. A lot of people, myself included, will bring out a lot of artificial materials to start fires, cardboard, paper, even little fire starting little nuggets that'll just burn forever to start a fire. But if you don't have any of that stuff, what do you use? It depends on where you are a little bit. But up here in Northern Idaho, the thing I love most and probably the best is birch wood, birch bark specifically. Now I picked this up on the way up the trail, just found it out here. Not everywhere has birch cypress tree, so it changes depending on where you are. Sometimes it takes a lot of work and you got to grab little grasses, and like sage in the plains is a really good one as well. You can really get the bark super fine. What makes this birch bark so good is you can tear off strips just like this, and you can keep going down smaller and smaller and smaller until you have something that'll start with a flint and steel at some point. Or, because I have a lighter, I really don't need to be that selective at all. So I can crumple some of this stuff up, start to tear this birch bark apart, and I will have some tinder. So I'll bring you back as soon as I'm ready to try to start it. All right, I'm gonna show you my fire setup. I know a lot of people watching this have already started fires in the woods. In case you haven't though, let me zoom in and show you how I'm setting this up, hoping that it's gonna work, all right? So like we talked about with the birch bark, I started with this stuff, and I got some really tiny stuff down here at the bottom that is really like torn up birch bark here. I brought this out just to show you. I really worked this stuff, got it super thin and tiny, and put it all the way at the bottom. So that'll be the first thing that I light with the lighter. On top of that, I've got a little bit of thicker birch bark like this. On top of that, I've got a little bit of torn up pine bark, and it's all kind of hugged under this log that I found with that diagonal cut in it. So the fire's got a little home to start to burn in here. After it starts, I'm gonna put a little bit of this on, and after a while I'll throw something like this log on. So that's gonna be the plan right now, and I could have put in a lot more work into this and guaranteed it's gonna start, but just because I have the lighter, right, I just feel like it's gonna be fine, especially it's sunny, wood's dry, ton of good material. So let's give it a shot. I think we got it. So while I'm waiting for the fire to get going and trying not to get smoked out, I can show you what I brought for food with us real quick. The magic is all in this plastic bag. Now what you have to know about me as I'm opening this up is that I have never been someone who considers myself a good chef, never. All my chef knowledge comes from watching Gordon Ramsay yell at people on Hell's Kitchen. But I'm very excited about this. So first up, I put some preparation in last night. I'll throw some clips up on the video for you. I got a New York steak. I poured some avocado oil in it, thinking that might be tasty, and then just doused it with a little bit of salt and pepper, put it to soak in here overnight. I'll cook this inside of the cast iron pan first. Then while we're letting that rest, I'm gonna pull out a little bit of rice, use that, boil this in my little pot that I've got right over here. I'll boil this rice, and then I'm going to mix it with some pre-scrambled scrambled eggs that I put in, that I prepared last night as well in preparation for this cooking. So it'll be like a little bit of egg fried rice. Now I brought as well a little bit of olive oil to be able to cook the steak in, baste the steak a little bit, some salt, some pepper, and somewhere in my bag I brought a little bit of butter as well. Boom, right there. So that's what I'm gonna be cooking. We're gonna start with this steak. It's been literal years, probably like over 5 years since I've cooked a steak, and definitely not on a campfire. I'm stoked. Let's go. Okay, the fire's going pretty good. Now I'm just kind of waiting on it to burn down a little bit, make some good coals for us. I got the steak ready. I've got everything ready right over here on the cutting board, set to go, eggs, everything. Know what I have my plan, I'm good to go. So while we're waiting, I think this is a good time to go back and start telling another one of the stories I don't get to tell very often in most of my normal YouTube videos. That's why I started this series in the first place. In my last video, my last campfire chat video, I told the story of how I hitchhiked across America and went from Charleston, South Carolina, back up to Idaho. Now in this video, I think it's a good time to start to tell the story of how I got started with van life and living on the road full time. How did I do it? What was the job I had? What were the struggles? What are the things that I've learned along the way? I'm gonna go over all that while we're waiting for this fire to start to burn down. So as with all origin stories, this is a sort of messy story, and that makes it hard to tell. But the basics of it are that I, during the height of the COVID pandemic, I was living, I think it was 2021, in Bozeman, Montana. I just dropped out of college in Missoula. That's about 3 hours this way over the mountains, and then moved to Bozeman, which is about 6 hours from here, even further out. It's my first time really like snipping the safety line away from my parents, who live just like, my house is right over that way. And I was really happy to be free. So the problem was, during COVID, I was just having a nightmare of a time. I just couldn't stand being stuck inside. So I started something called the Year of Adventure. I chose my word of the year to be adventure. And that meant every week or every month I would spend 1 week on the road out of my car. So I'd go somewhere in my little Volkswagen Golf. I still have, I think, the first YouTube video I ever really filmed doing adventures with Jake when I went skydiving in Oregon. And I would do this just once a week every month because I was working online as a copywriter. I had enough income to pay rents for about $1,600 a month, and I was getting by. Everything was good, and I wanted to just adventure because I knew I didn't want to be in Bozeman forever. End of the year comes, about July, I guess, end of that, my lease for my apartment, and they want me to renew. They said this time it's going to be $2,300 a month to stay in the apartment. I knew I didn't want to stay there long term. It was really expensive, and I knew I didn't want to pay that much for a place. I didn't want to stay long term, so I'd already been staying out of my car for the past 6 months, sleeping in the back of my car for a week, just doing adventures every single month. So I said, hey, let's hop in the car and just go see what's out there. I just want to find the place that I know I want to live, and I know there's more places out there. So I hopped in the car and I drove down to the Oregon coast. I went to Bend, Oregon. I went to a few little towns that I was thinking of, and I was Googling all these apartment complexes, and I showed up at these places, and none of them excited me. Not a single one of them. I remember one of them I walked into, there were these people that were clearly on drugs that walked out of one of the rooms, and I was like, bro, am I really gonna live now? Are those gonna be my neighbors? No, I can't do this. It's not for me. I'm not gonna deal with it. I'm not gonna deal with party, college ridiculousness. I don't want it. So I kept being in my car. So I was like, I've never seen Northern California. I'll go down there. And it was awesome. And I was like, gosh, I got some friends in Southern California. I'll go down there. I went all the way down to San Diego. By the time I was there, I was like, hey, man, why don't I just go to Maine? You know, it's like, I'm already out here. I'm already living. I'm already doing all this stuff. I should go. So I went all across the country. I went to Maine. I went to Florida, all the way down to Key West. And completed my four-corner journey of the country. I'd been up to Washington, up to the tip of Maine, all the way down to Key West, Florida, all the way to San Diego. And it started this insatiability for what was out there. I was having so much fun. Every place I saw, I was like, just what's next? I swam with sharks in Key West. I feel like I got woken up by a mermaid in Maine, which is a story for another one of these videos. So that was insane. I saw all this crazy stuff. Even started doing solo trips. I went to Norway and got haunted by ghosts for a while, which is another story I plan on telling in one of these videos at some point. And that's how the inception started. I got so used to living in my car that I just got amazing at it, and I just kept getting more curious. All right, I think the fire is looking good now. Let's start to get some cooking going. Okay, things are about to get serious. I've got the steak right over here, and my plan is I got some olive oil in the pan. I'm going to drop the steak in there, get this super hot, try to sear it right off the bat. Then right after that, I'm going to add some butter and start to cook it a little bit more, but I'm just going to try to sear it, like flash sear it. I don't know if that's a good idea. I've never seen anybody do it. I don't know how to cook a steak. Don't be mad at me, but we're going to give it a shot. Okay, here we go. I dropped it down into the fire to heat it up a little bit more. Now I'm going to grab this. Here we go. That sounds good. That sounds good. Okay, quick sear. That was the idea. Now I'm going to throw a little bit of butter in there. Butter will burn. Olive oil doesn't really, so I'm just going to throw a little bit of butter on top. Okay. This is my steak. I'm going to let that rest for about 10 minutes. Now let's get to the eggs and rice. The rice took a little longer than expected, but I'm ready to pull this off. Now it's time for the eggs. Using all that yummy steak juice from earlier, I'm gonna take my rice with a heating hand for sure, and dump that in. Then right on top of that, I've got all these eggs that I'm gonna dump in next. We're gonna see how this turns out in the next couple seconds here. Steak's still raw. Dang it. Oh my goodness, that was so much, but at the end of the day, this is our meal. Some more like rice, fried egg, and steak. So, I already salted and peppered it. Oh my goodness. Okay, so the egg is delicious. I had to throw the steak back on the fire to make sure it was good enough. So I don't know how this is gonna be. I'm pretty sure it's done now. It's done. Oh, it's so good. Oh my good. Wow, it's really good. Oh my gosh. Wait a sec, I crushed this. Okay. Now, gotta get the dream shot, because this is where we're at. Eating steak, steak and eggs. It was so hard and actually very stressful. Took a ton of work setting up the fire, getting everything right, spilling my rice and only saving like half of it. Dude, we made it. Yes! Yes! Before we go, I have to show you this beautiful alpine lake view behind me. I just cooked the meal right over here on the ledge, looking out towards the big lake. This is the alpine lake, Antelope Lake, right behind me up in Clark Fork, Idaho. Absolutely beautiful, so amazing. There's actually people starting to get here and everything right now, like there's trucks coming up and people on electric bikes. It is just a magnificent little place though. The camera's dying, so let's head back down and we'll finish the story down at the van. My gosh, look at all this stuff you gotta bring up the mountain to cook a meal. That took a lot of effort. All right, back again. Where did we end the story? Back when I was getting really good at living out of a car. I lived out of my car before I got this beautiful van behind me. I lived out of my car for about 2.5 years. Went to 49 states in that car. First I did the Four Corners. Then I drove all the way up to Alaska to host a trip. I'll tag that video that I filmed somewhere up here. And then after that, I just started checking places off. I wanted to see all the national parks. I wanted to see all the states. I wanted to kind of indulge in every little microculture across America and get really understanding of what makes people tick. Because if you understand why people are the way they are, it makes it really hard to be mad at them, even if they have totally different value systems than you, because you can say like, oh, I can see that, right? And it doesn't mean everyone that doesn't share your opinions is a bad person after you've been around for a while. So I loved that about living in the car. And the natural next progression, after sleeping in fetal position for 2.5 years in the freezing cold, without insulation, no storage, just surviving and getting woken up by the cops all the time because I was living out of a car and there's no way to hide. Because I had elementary school kids that would walk up to my windows every once in a while. I think that happened like 3 times. Elementary school kids that would knock on my window and wake me up when they were walking to school like 7 a.m. in the morning. Oh my gosh, is he dead? It's like, then the cops get called on me. Then I either got to get out of town before it gets crazy, or I just got to sit there and wait and try to explain my case to the cops. It was horrible. Living in a car, really fun, but it comes with a lot of downsides. So I got a van. And the very beginning of 2020, end of 2023, going into 2024, I bought my van just the shell. Lived in that for a full year, and it was better, but it wasn't. You're still not kind of looked at as a real member of society. After you get a van build, though, then people sort of know that this is a choice, and I choose to live in this beautiful vehicle because it's what I want to do, and there's a significant financial investment involved in it as well. So you have a lot more respect and a lot more interest from everybody you meet on the road. I didn't know how dramatic the difference was going to be, but I've been woken up by the cops sleeping in places I'm not supposed to a few times now. And instead of waking me up all gruff and telling me I'm breaking city ordinances and that I could be arrested, blah, 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 like has happened to me several times, instead they just say like, hey, bro, you can't sleep here, but oh my gosh, your van is so cool. That's how I get woken up these days. It's so much better. We'll finish this video over at my favorite bakeries I found in all 50 states, the Pantry in Clark Fork. We were just right up here on this mountain. Now, here we are, one of my favorite places. So to finish up, I can tell you that the best parts about living in a van are undoubtedly like the comfort level you get and the freedom level you get combined is unbeatable. It's the absolute best, man. Being able to spend the morning doing things like that, right on the edge of the trails, go up and cook in the mountains. It is the best life I've ever lived, and it's absolutely worth every little hardship that I went to, all the financial struggles I went to, all the times I was broke on the road before I got this van. Dude, it's the best lifestyle I've ever lived, ever. And I'm sure it'll get better. Right? The better things get, the better they tend to get, the better they can be. But if you have the option and you're interested in this, I'm telling you right now, it is worth it. That'll finish for me. Stay wild, be free. And I'm going to eat a cinnamon roll. See you in the next one.